Hello there, and welcome to my hobby. I like comic books. Let me share them with you. Let's talk about some comic books. So for this, which is my inaugural video, I'm doing Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley's Spider-Man life story. This is part 2, it takes place in the 70s. I like this cover. This is such a simple cover, but I mean, the spider-webbing Spider-Man holding up a disco ball, and the disco ball is a pumpkin. Because of the Green Goblin, you know? So, in concept... holy Lord! Hi, welcome back. I'm going to keep talking. So the concept behind this comic book and this series is that it's snippets from Spider-Man's life as he ages in real time. So, he was born in the 50s and he's a teenager in the 60s. Then he's going to be, you know, in his 20s in the 70s, 30s in the 80s, 40s in the 90s, so on and so forth. And it's a great concept. I like it when characters change and evolve and get older. And that was one of the coolest things about Spider-Man. He started out as a teenager, and then he started growing into an adult. He eventually got married and was going to have kids. Granted, Marvel decided to destroy all of that and get rid of his marriage and his possible kids. I'm going to make a video on that one day, hopefully. Because in the 90s, like, in the 80s, I think it was the 80s, Peter Parker got married to Mary Jane, and she was a wealthy woman, so his woman problems and his money problems were solved. So they just didn't know how to write him anymore. And I don't think they knew how to write him until J. Michael Straczynski showed up. What was I going to say? But yes, this comic book by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley. So Spider-Man hasn't been written in character for probably 10 years. He's been getting the shaft since like the mid to late 90s in terms of stories. He's often written as a doofus and a moron and a dweeb, but not in a good way. Not like he was a nerd originally, but now he's an annoying prick. He's that guy in high school that had nothing going for it. Well, but in the original Spider-Man, he did have stuff going for him because he was smart. He was going to go places. But now he's like, he's that guy that you're glad that you're not. That's how he's written nowadays in the comics, and has been for a while. Except Chip Zdarsky shows up. And he's writing Spider-Man, and he's been writing Spider-Man very well. And in this series, in the first issue, in this issue, and the other issue, he's writing Peter Parker more like Peter Parker. He's keeping tone very even. He's like, Chip Zdarsky should be writing Amazing Spider-Man, the main line right now, but instead he's writing this. And he's writing Daredevil. He's also writing Invaders. If you don't got Invaders, get it. They're probably going to cancel it because it ain't selling nothing. But back to this comic book right here. So this story, it's the 70s. Oh, shizit. And it opens, so in the first issue, Norman Osborn finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Peter Parker finds out that Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin. And Flash Thompson is going off to war. He's going to go to war in Vietnam. In the Spider-Man comics originally, Flash Thompson went off to Vietnam and he came home. That is not the case in this one. So, see this page here? Totally worthless. Never read it. Never will read it. No reason to read it. Absolutely, utterly pointless. This is a waste of a page. Never read I never read the opening page in a Marvel comic. It's flippin' pointless. But it opens up like this. It opens the way so many Spider-Man comics do, or you've seen this scene in Spider-Man comics before where Peter Parker's standing in a cemetery and he's talking to a gravestone. Now, Peter Parker's in the cemetery, he's talking to a gravestone. If you read Spider-Man comics, you know that he's in the cemetery talking to Ben's gravestone. In this comic, they do a little switcheroo. He's married to Gwen Stacy right now. Peter Parker works for Reed Richards. Gwen Stacy works for Warren. What's his name? Miles Warren, the Jackal. But he's in the graveyard, he's talking to the gravestone, and then you turn the page to find out, because you think it's Uncle Ben, but you turn the page, and it's actually Flash Thompson. He died in Vietnam. In the original stories, he comes back from Vietnam. He ends up getting a wife from Vietnam. It's a very 70s story about like ancient temples and mystical beings. It's cool. Go back and read it. But, so in the story, Peter Parker works for Reed Richards. Reed Richards is divorced. He's getting older. Vietnam is still going on because Captain America is there helping out. But what's cool about this is that since it's taking place in real time and each issue is a different decade, all of the important stories of that decade are kind of being mushed together. So for the 70s, this is the death of Gwen Stacy, essentially. And they put the part in there about Mary Jane getting married to Harry, and Harry's working with his father. His father's got a devious plan. As it turns out, he plans on having himself cloned. Norman Osborn's in jail. He has himself cloned so he can pin all his crimes on his clone. They introduced this character called the Black Goblin, which is Harry Osborn, but it's really cool. He's black and gold, and he's got red eyes. I believe they all have red eyes, but it's very, very cool. I like this. But lo and behold, as the story goes on, it's revealed that Miles Warren is making clones, but he didn't just make a clone. Norman wanted a clone of himself, wanted a clone of Peter, and Miles Warren actually made a clone of Gwen Stacy. You know, and then Peter and Harry get into a fight. It's a pretty okay fight. The art's, Mark Bagley's art's very good. Mark Bagley, you know, top 5 people who have drawn Spider-Man, Mark Bagley's up there. But Peter and Harry get into a fight because Norman likes Peter more, etc., etc. And of course, Peter being friends with Harry and Harry being not totally insane, he sees through the light and he decides to just destroy the clones. So that's what he does. But unfortunately, as it would turn out, Miles Warren didn't want a clone of Gwen Stacy. He wanted Gwen Stacy. So the Gwen Stacy that Peter was married to is the clone, and the Gwen in the tank is the real Gwen. So Gwen Stacy is actually dead in this comic. Spoiler alert! But this is a very good comic. So it starts out, what year does this start out in? 1977 is how it starts out. And then at the end of the story, we do a time jump to 1978. And Peter Parker's clone, Peter Parker ends up saving his clone. He's leaving, Gwen's leaving with him, and Mary Jane is now divorced. And this is a very good comic. It's very, like you really feel, it's very serious, and the tone is very even. Like it's not a bunch of stupid jokes in this like serious moment. But you get to the end and you feel sorry for Peter because he's alone. He doesn't, you know, his wife is dead, and the woman who's not his wife is leaving with his, you know, clone. Like he's essentially watching himself walk away with his wife. And he's got nothing. And he gets very angry at Mary Jane, and he lashes out at her, but you feel sorry for him because like his happiness, the good things in his life are gone. So, but there's something important that I need to point out, and I'm pointing this out because it's important for the next issue. He points out that Harry disappeared and left you millions. He screams that at Mary Jane. Harry Osborn left Mary Jane millions of dollars. They're separated now. He disappeared, and now they're separated. But this is a great comic book that I highly recommend. If you're not buying, go buy it. It's still out now. They just got issue 3 out. But it's all the stories condensed down into a story each decade. Spider-Man aging in real time. Darn fine comic. Darn fine. But anyway, please subscribe. I like subscribers and thumbs up if you like this video. If you don't like this video, hit the thumbs up anyway, just because it helps me, and there's a thing called karma. I've got another YouTube channel. As of right now, it's called The Real Fuzzy Pickles. I'm going to try to change it because that sounds weird. But on it, I talk about video games. And yeah, that'll be it. Take it easy. Bye.